Alec Ryan's fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted the strap of his satchel, the fabric fraying like his narrows. The academy bell had long since echoed into silence, but he remained alone on the outer ridge trail, surrounded by thorny vegetation and the buzz of distant, unseen creatures. Detention had once again become a ritual. Another disciplinary hike for being caught, this time upgrading his with forbidden dragon codexes. His boots sank into the mossy dirt as he trod forward. Every step took him further from the polished spires of Interstellar Academy and deeper into what the administration called unsanctioned train. In his mind, it was the only part of the planet that hadn't been drained of mystery. The wind shifted. A sharp, acrid scent curled into his nostrils, like burnt metal mixed with ozone. He paused. Every rational part of his brain, so meticulously trained by academic regimens, told him to turn around and report the anomaly. Instead, he stepped off the path. The grass here was flattened, scorched at its tips. A trail of dark, viscous fluid streaked across the ground like ink spilled from a wounded sky. Alec followed the trail with cautious steps, each one faster than the last. His eyes scanned wildly, hope blooming inside him like a forbidden coat. Then he saw it. Beneath the gnarled roots of an ancient, the creature looked almost sculpted from night. Its body was sinewed and taut, plated with dark, iridescent scales that shimmer when the light caught them just right. One of its wings was twisted, bent at an unnatural angle. The dragon, if it was a dragon, raised its head slightly, revealing a narrow muzzle and two glowing slits of molten amber. Alec froze. He couldn't breathe. The creature hissed weakly. It didn't lunge. Instead, it blinked. He fumbled with his satchel, clumsy fingers searching for the emergency rations he always carried, habit, not necessity. He tore open a protein bar and crumbly and extended it slowly. The dragon's nostrils flared, then it inched forward, sniffed once, and snatched the offering with startling speed. Crunch. Swallow. Silence. The dragon exhaled with a guttural purr, eyes still locked on Alec. "You're starving," Alec whispered, heart thudding in his ears. "But you're not wild. You're aware." His mind raced. All the texts, the redacted histories, the heretical documents claiming dragons had once shaped galaxies, not hinted or heralded Trevor, but preserved cosmic balance. The Federation had erased them from public knowledge after the Great Urge. No one knew why. Alec crouched slowly, trying not to appear threatening. The dragon didn't recall. He reached into his kit and pulled out a scanning wand, activated it, and hovered it near the creature's neck. He expected growls, fire, death. Instead, the dragon allowed it. The data appeared instantly: elevated blood temperature, unknown hemoglobin structure, rare quantum resonance signature. Alec's eyes widened. "You shouldn't exist," he murmured. "You're roll stock, aren't you?" The dragon let out a low, almost mournful sound, like a flute played in a ruined cathedral. Then it lowered its head. His breath hitched. He couldn't tell if the gesture was one of trust or resignation, but either way, he responded. Carefully, he removed a medical foam egg and sprayed it gently along the injured wing joint. The dragon twitched but didn't retaliate. He continued, methodically, as if treating it in a lab. As if it wasn't an apex predator. Minutes passed. Then, without warning, the creature's eyes dilated, and it surged upright. Alec scrambled back, hands splayed, heart hammering. The dragon's body pulsed with a soft internal glow now, dim yet unmistakable. It stood still for a heartbeat, then released a sudden resonant chuff of breath that felt like it passed through his bones. Then it was gone, launched into the canopy in a blur of wings and wind, leaving only shattered leaves and silence behind. Alec stood alone, blinking into the space where it had been. He looked down at the ground and saw something glinting among the ferns. Kneeling, he picked it up, a scale impossibly smooth and warm to the touch, small enough to hide in his palm but dense as matter. He stared at it, breath caught. Something had passed between them. By the time he returned to the edge of the academy perimeter, night had fallen. A drone scanned his ID and logged his lateness with a shrill beep, but Alec barely heard it. His mind spiraled with calculations and questions. His dorm room, usually a sanctuary of quiet study and solitude, felt alien. He turned the scale over and over in his hand, then finally tucked it into the secret panel behind his desk. The stars outside pulsed faintly, as if winking at him. He didn't sleep. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the dragons had seen the offering. And they were coming. The next morning, Alec moved through the academy halls like a ghost in his own skin. Murmured conversations swirled around him, oblivious to the significance of the previous night. Students chattered about upcoming exams and the latest brawl match, while Alec clutched his, as if it could shield him from the weight pressing into his chest. He kept his head down, but the moment he passed through the southern corridor, a shove to his shoulder sent him stumbling. "Hey," sneered Drenkovar, a bulky hybrid with gleaming tusks and too many friends. "Planning to feed any more stray monsters on your way to class?" Alec said nothing, responding only encouraged them. Another student, this one human, chimed in with a theatrical guest. Careful, he might summon his pet again. Think it'll do tricks. Laughter chased him down the hallway, but Alec barely heard it. Last night's events had eclipsed all such petty cruelty. The scale now tucked inside his satchel bumped against his thigh like a secret sun. Every instinct told him it should be impossible, a product of exhaustion or delusion, but the data didn't lie. His scanner had captured physiological readings too alien, too precise, to be anything but real. He slipped into the lab during lunch, locking the door behind him. With trembling fingers, he connected the scanner to the console and the analysis. The results scrolled across the screen. Internal plasma temperature over 9000 Kelvin, bone density consistent with theoretical gravimetric compression, cellular nuclei laced with an unknown alloy. Not just real, beyond comprehension. The door hissed open. Alec jerked upright as headmaster entered without announcement. His skeletal frame, with glimmering tech, gave him the appearance of a corpse piloting its own resurrection. His eyes, two pinpoints of synthetic emerald, regarded Alec with cool detachment. "You accessed an unauthorized field data," said, was dry as bone dust. Alec hesitated, fingers twitching over the console. "I was off campus on detention protocol. I encountered something injured. I provided basic aid." "Something," repeated. "Not an animal. Not a known species. And certainly not an authorized subject for analysis." Alec swallowed hard. "I didn't harm it. I only helped." The headmaster took a step closer. The temperature in the room seemed to dip. "Do you understand what you may have done, Ryan?" Alec's voice dropped. "No, sir. But I think I'm starting to." Gaze flicked to the scale barely visible beneath the satchel flak. "Dragons are not myth, Bo. They are embargoed entities. Forbidden. Any living trace of them was earthed generations ago for reasons above your classification. If one truly remains, if you aided it, you may have broken a silence that was never meant to be disturbed." He turned to leave, the hem of his robe trailing faint sparks where it touched the floor. Just before exiting, he added, "If anything more comes of this, you will inform me immediately." "Am I understood?" Alec nodded mutely. But he didn't report the scale. He didn't delete the data. He couldn't. Some part of him, deeper than curiosity, deeper than logic, told him this was no longer about a chance encounter. This was unfolding into something ancient, immense, and irreversibly set in motion. That night, as the campus lights dimmed and the artificial atmosphere settled into its program, a low rumble vibrated through the foundation of the dorms. Alec sat bolt upright. He checked his chronograph. 3:11. Another rumble. Loud, like a sound too large for the air to hold. A sharp crack split the sky. Then silence. He crept to the window and looked out toward the wildlands. The horizon shimmered with a strange glow, like lightning trapped in water. Then, just beyond the Academy's energy barrier, he saw it. A silhouette, tall and proud, wings folded, standing like a sentinel in the distance. The same dragon. The one he had fed. Only now it wasn't alone. A second shape emerged from the shadows. Then a third. Then 6 more. All silent. All watching. His breath caught in his throat. They weren't attacking. They weren't moving. They were waiting. A sharp knock rattled his door. He turned, started. It wasn't a dorm supervisor or security enforcer. Standing in the hall was Professor Selah Meyer, his mentor and the only faculty member who ever remembered his name without a prompt. She didn't wait to be invited in. "Alec," she said in a rush, "you need to come with me. Now." "Why? What's going on?" She glanced over her shoulder as though expecting someone or something to be following. Seismic sensors are registering movement outside the barrier. Rhythmic, patterned. Coordinated. We haven't seen anything like it in over a century. Alec hesitated. "How many?" She met his eyes. "Too many." He followed her through back corridors, past unused stridge wings that smelled like ozone and all. They emerged in the observatory tower, one of the few places on campus with an unrestricted view of the landscape. The dragons were still there. Not dozens. Hundreds. Spanning the ridgeline like a jagged black crown. Silent. Impossibly still. Professor Meyer stepped forward and activated the lens. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. "They were supposed to be extinct. Myths, even before the Federation existed." "They're not myths," Alec said softly. She looked at him sharply. "You know something." The morning air was sharp and bitter, as though the atmosphere itself held its breath. Across the Academy, emergency sirens pulsed low and steady, an omnipresent tram beneath the usual mechanical drone of early classes. Students clustered in groups, whispering frantically, their eyes fixed on the sky. Alec stood in the shadow of the main observatory spire, his face tilted upward. He no longer needed to squint at the horizon. The dragons had moved closer. They hovered in formation, great wings beating in slow, synchronized rhythm, as if gravity had loosened its grip just for them. At the center of the mess hung a colossal figure, nearly twice the size of the others, its scales radiant like flowing gold. The light from its body did not reflect, it emanated as though it burned with its own miniature sun. The Academy's defense turrets tracked the beasts, twitching with nervous precision, but they did not fire. No order had been given. No command dared risk retaliation. A voice crackled from the announcement system, bright with forced calm. "All students and faculty are to remain indoors until further notice. Do not engage the visitors." They have issued no threat. No threat. Yet the air itself vibrated with the tension of a held blade. Alex buzzed. A message encrypted, immediate. "Ryan. Report to the spire. You are requested by name." Meyer. Requested. Not summoned. Not ordained. Requested. By the time he reached the base of the spire, Professor Meyer was already waiting beside a cluster of Federation officials and faculty. Her eyes found his and held them, silently steadying. The crowd parted as he approached. Beyond them, standing within the spire's great archway, was the dragon he had first aided. It was no longer gaunt, no longer limping. Its form gleamed with restored vitality, sleek, composed, and proud. It bowed its head once, deliberately, and then stepped aside. Another figure emerged. Larger. Olban. It moved with the inherent grace of inevitability. Alec didn't need to be told its name. The moment it looked at him, eyes molten and deep as collapsing stars, he felt the syllables in his mind like a forgotten language rediscovered. The eternal flame. The dragon spoke, but not aloud. Its voice poured into Alec's thoughts with crystal clarity, bypassing ears and entering somewhere beneath language. You fed the exiled flame. You touched the line of sovereigns without knowing. You restored what should not have been forgotten. Alec swallowed, trying to speak, but his mouth refused coherence. Only when word came through. Why? Because the pact was seen. Because your offering was not mere charity, it was recognition. In you, our kind has seen memory. The Federation Envoy, a pale humanoid with optic implants and a vase-like ground glass, stepped forward. This boy has no authority to represent humanity. He is a student. Unranked. Whatever he did, it was done without sanction. Turned its head slightly, slowly like a planet shifting a orbit. And yet we came. Not for ranks. Not for crowns. For intention. The silence that followed was thick and the dragon Alec had saved approached and knelt before him. Its wings folded with ceremony, its head lowered until Alec could feel the breath of it warm against his shoes. Another voice, resonant and calm, filled the air, not telepathic this time, but spoken aloud. By ancient right, he is. Gasps erupted among the humans and other species. The title meant nothing to most, but its gravity was unmistakable. Professor Meyer took a step toward Alec. Do you understand what this means? She asked gently. He shook his head. It means they've given you a bond of allegiance, she said. Their kind binds by choice, not force. They don't owe empires. They don't kneel to federations. But they've chosen you. The Enva barked, this is unacceptable. We demand an immediate cease in communications until proper diplomatic protocol. The golden dragon raised one wing. The Enva stopped speaking. Turned its eyes back to Alec. You may reject the bond. We will not be offended. But we will wait. And should you call, we will answer. Alec felt the scale in his pocket grow warm. He looked around, the officials, the stand faculty, the students watching from behind mirrored glass, their faces twisted in disbelief. He caught of every sneer, every dismissal, every time someone laughed at the idea that dragons could be more than cautionary myths. He looked at, proud and still. I didn't help him because I wanted anything, Alec said. I didn't even think anyone would believe me. Responded with something that felt like a smile, though no teeth showed. That is why you are worthy. Alec stepped forward and placed his hand on lowered brow. The contact sparked with such energy, like warm starlight sliding through his veins. The dragon exhaled deeply, a gust of wind laced with something older than breath. Behind them, the other dragons raised their heads in unison. The energy shifted. A low, harmonic tone reverberated across the sky, not music, but something purer. A chord struck between beings. A vow older than history. The Enva turned away in disbelief. Professor Meyer stayed silent, watching the movement with the reverence of a historian witnessing prophecy. The dragons circled low over the academy grounds, their wings slicing through the morning mist like blades of wind. Students gawked from windows, half in awe, half in terror. No one could remember ever seeing a single dragon so close to a human settlement, much less a dozen, much less in a line, patiently waiting by the east field, where the grass had been burned down to stubble by yesterday's flame. Armies stood at the edge of the field, his robe rumpled and singed from the previous night. He was exhausted, the weight of everything pressing on his shoulders like a mantle far heavier than anything he'd ever worn in class. The stray dragon, now named, lay curled behind him, lazily flicking his tail through a furrow in the dirt. The others, larger and adorned with scales of every hue from storm cloud grey to molten gold, kept a respectful distance but watched Armies with an intensity that bordered on reverence. Professor Kyle strode toward them, his polished boots kicking up clouds of ash. He looked older than yesterday, as though one night of uncertainty had added years to his frame. Behind him trailed several members of the Academy Council, their robes marked with the embroidered sigils of ancient authority. They had deliberated all night, arguing behind closed doors while dragons waited silently outside the gates. "You've started something we don't understand," Kyle said, voice low but tight with tension. "They aren't attacking. They're waiting. For you." Armies swallowed, throat raw. "They came because pulled them. Because someone fed one of them without fear. That's all." A councilwoman stepped forward, her silver circlet glinting beneath the rising sun. "You're suggesting dragons, creatures that once scorched entire kingdoms, responded to a single act of kindness." Raised his head, huffing a curl of steam as if offended. Armies reached back, fingers brushing along the ridge of his scaled snout. "Not kindness. Respect." The dragons stirred at the word, wings shifting like sails catching wind. There was an intelligence in their movements, coordinated and conscious. Not beasts. Not monsters. Witnesses. The standoff between species and scholars deepened by the second. Around them, students had gathered at the edges of the field, murmuring, watching. The tale of Armies and the first dragon had already spread like fire in dry hay. He could hear them whisper his name with a tone that was no longer derision but awe. The bow with no friends, the human always picked last, had done what no one else dared. "They don't want war," Armies continued. "They want to speak. To be heard. Maybe for the first time in centuries." "And you think you can be their boss?" Kyle asked, more cautious then, dismissive now. "I think they chose me." A low rumble rolled across the field. One of the larger dragons, a matriarch with eyes like embers, stepped forward. Her clothes sank into the scorched earth as she bowed her head slightly, the gesture unmistakably diplomatic. Her mouth opened, but the sound that emerged wasn't language as the humans knew it, it was song. A deep, harmonic resonance that filled the bones before it reached the ears. Translated, a soft growl vibrating from his throat. "She says, the pact is old. Forgotten. But not broken. We remember those who treated us not as weapons, but as kin. This bow is like the first. We come because the old ways stir in him." The air grew still. An elven councilman stepped forward. "You're saying there was once peace between dragons and humans?" Armies nodded. "More than peace. Partnership. The legends weren't myths. We abandoned them, not the other way around." Another dragon moved, this one smaller, sleek and blue, with wings that shimmered like glass. He carried something in his talons, a stone tablet, edges worn, covered in ancient runes. He laid it gently at Armies' feet. The council rushed forward, gasping as they recognized the glyphs. Forgotten symbols. Draconic and human side by side. "It's a record," Armies said softly, tracing the edges. "Proof." Voss rumbled again. "They brought it as a sign. To rekindle what was lost." Silence fell again, not heavy, but profound. Then a ripple passed through the crowd of students, whispers of change, of a world larger than they'd imagined. Some began to step forward, cautiously, approaching the dragons with the same hesitant abandon Armies once had. A elf girl offered a pouch of dried fruit to one of the smaller dragons, who blinked at her, then accepted it gently in his jaws. The pension cracked and a breath of hope of something almost like peace blew across the field. Kyle exhaled slowly, his gaze unreadable. "You've forced our hand, Armies. We can't ignore this now. The world won't let us." "I didn't want to force anything," Armies replied. "I just didn't want him to starve." As the council retreated to prepare their next move, and likely summon envoys from distant cities, Armies stood in the middle of a field once marked by fear, now humming with the quiet of new beginnings. The dragons lingered, forming a crescent behind him like a living wall. The sun broke fully over the mountains, casting long shadows behind them all. Armies didn't know what tomorrow held. Whether diplomacy would take root, whether the academy would accept what it once denied. But in this moment he stood at the center of a circle that once never should have formed. And for the first time in his life he wasn't invisible. He was the bridge.